B-Bad and Brandon.
Didn't know there was a game.
Penrith
Thursday night.
Storm. Yeah.
Who won?
Fucking Panthers in the last minute. Kurt Capewell fucking scored over the line.
Jesus.
Literally. And then they kicked the goal and they were 2 points ahead. I would love to have been in the dressing room when Craig Bellamy went off.
Wouldn't he go bananas? There's 2 losses in a row.
Yeah.
He's a pretty good dude. We used to see him at North Burleigh all the time. He must have a place at North Burleigh. So every Christmas he'd come up there.
Yep.
Be at the surf club having beers and everyone would be like, hey, mate, good on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks. You know, I just seemed a pretty good guy.
He was pretty cool with it.
He's got young kids too.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel
I
like
wonder if he coaches them. Like he does when he's in the box. Yeah.
In and away.
Yeah.
In and away.
yeah, right.
Gives them a quick spiel before they go to kindy in the morning or something. Just a big pep talk before they run out.
Yeah, I'm already
Wrap up the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just need meters. Every meter counts. He's going forward.
Fuck, he'd be loose unit in the sheds.
Oh, can you imagine the language he would use?
Because I've just been on a ride of reading like NRL players' autobiographies. So I just finished Billy Slater's, and they're all like, yeah, he's just so different off the field. Like he's just that character. Apparently, like in the sheds, he's not afraid to give a good spray.
White line fever is a real thing.
Yeah,
it's a real thing because obviously I've seen a lot of it on the inside, and you're just like, are we filming by the way?
Yeah, we're on.
Oh, we're on.
We're on, baby.
Mate, one of the best ever. I'm just going to throw names in here.
Yes.
So as a junior physio, geez, this is probably 2004-5.
Yeah, right.
I was working at the Reds. It was my first stint at the Reds, done 2. And Eddie Jones was the coach.
Oh.
Mate, like 3'2" Japanese guy. And then you've got like 6'7", 120 kilo locks and whatever. And he could make him cry.
Oh, really? Just put him down.
Just demoralize. Like I'd never seen anything like it. And being so green, I was just like, oh, this is full on. And I'd kind of gravitate towards the back of the room and behind a pylon.
Yeah.
And because I was not
Safer.
full time, so I was like never in the firing line. And like the spray would go for so long. I'd have to start reading the magazine. I'm like the match day guy because I'm like, this is going for so long. Because it'd be like midnight Saturday night after a game. You'd be like, fuck me dead, Sharpie. What are you doing? And just like he'd go at someone, and just like we think, okay, he's had enough. Like you can see his posture. He's down. Like he would just keep going, and just like, you know. And he'd like, yeah, I only sleep 4 hours a night. So if you want to ring me up at 2:00 in the morning, I'll be awake, guys. If you want to chat, okay.
You just spoken for us.
Full kamikaze, just
smash
But
him.
as far as like rugby knowledge goes, he was Yoda. Like just unbelievable. Man management. Interesting.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
Did the Reds do well with him?
The Reds weren't good back then.
Nah, they really came out.
That was when
they went in a good spot then.
That was when they were kind of really bottomed out. But you had all the guys that stayed together and won it for him in 2011. So Quade Cooper was there, Will Gagne, James Horwell.
Yep.
Like that real backbone of.
Yep.
So they were there under that. Oh my God, Quade he copped
Did
it
he
a
cop
few
it?
times. Yeah, might have come in. He's got a bit of a swagger about him.
Yeah.
I think we could all probably safely say that. He'd probably say that about himself. As long as he doesn't box me in the face. Because he can throw good punches now. But he came in late. So obviously, right, you're coming in for extra sessions, you know what I mean? And like the strength and conditioning coach got ridden like a jockey, poor bloke, because Eddie was so full on and rode him to then come in and do extras for Quade. And they'd both kind of get there and look at each other and go, I don't want to be here. You don't want to be here. Like,
just run the laps.
Just come on, yeah. But then again, you probably forged something pretty strong in those guys. And
that's
then
what created
fast
what they
forward
had.
5 years and they're guns.
Yeah.
And like in that 2011 year, like essentially those 3 players, throw in Digby, Oani, you know, Scott Higginbotham was one hand pass and chip and chases. You know, Liam Gill, Slipper, like good young players. Radiki Samo, this massive
he was huge.
Afro, just like they were just so good, and everything was clicking in that 1 year.
Just took that lead up,
and that was the Floods year too, so they had a bit of like spiritual.
That's right.
Coming from behind, and it was probably enough to get them over the line. So I think he interviewed Brad Thorne afterwards because he was playing for the Crusaders, and they said, like, man, I'm just so happy for the Reds one, and then for Queensland because of the floods. Like, it was just a really beautiful moment in sport, coming from so low to up.
He kind of really helped Queensland rugby at a low level too. Really brought a lot of interest and spark back to it.
Put it back on the map, you know. It's kind of been a funny divide, I think. Like, never been on free-to-air TV, kind of private school game. It's always been a bit, you know, league, union kind of divide.
I remember we had to play it in fucking high school. I'd never played a game of it. Never even really knew. Like, I played it for 5-6 years and played at quite a high level. Could not tell you the rules of the ruck still. It is so confusing.
And that, unfortunately, I think that's what kind of killed it for a while there, was the repackaging of scrums, and like there's a ruck, and then it'd be like,
like, what the fuck was that for?
What just happened there?
When you watch NRL, and it's just bang, go.
And you had Richie McCaw, like, borderline rules all the time, but a master at it, slow the ball down, just get the hand on the footy, and allowed his defense to go on. And it was...
It's quite an artful game when you understand and know how to play it.
It is, like, it's one of the most inclusive games if you want to be open, inclusive to all types out there. Like, for the tall kids, you're in the ruck, you know, for the more staunch human and muscular men with maybe not as high a stature, like you're in the front row.
Yep.
So it's give a job them. The quick guys, you're out in the wing. The battering rams are either your centers, or the loose guys are your kind of breakaways.
Yeah.
You know, your smart guys get your hands on the footy, 5/8 and the scrum half.
Yep.
Like, gives a game for everyone.
Everyone
League's kind of pretty homogenized, I reckon. Like, you got 120 kilo forward and almost 120 kilo back, and they can all do the similar.
They can all do similar.
What's his name?
They almost run as fast as each other, and they
What's
always
the Eels winger? Fuck. Can't say. I don't want to say that on the podcast, but I'll find it because he is literally. I'm like, you're a front rower.
He's a beast. That game's evolved.
Remember the Brett Plowman for the Broncos? Like, yeah, like big unit wing, just get it to him 10 meters out and you push, and he was effective. Very effective.
Maika Sivo. He is a monster. Like, you don't look like a winger. You literally look like a front rower or a second rower.
Big, massive man.
But I think that's also the problem with rugby league. Like, they're so interchangeable as players, unless you're like a Cameron Smith at hooker, or a, Cooper Cronk or Jonathan Thurston at halfback 5'8". Like, those players have to play those key positions. But if you're like Kurt Capewell, second rower, he'll play in the centers. Could even jump on the ring, on the wing if you fucking
on the ring.
In the ring, he can probably jump in the ring too.
Jump in a ring.
He would make some extra cash.
Yeah. Junior Polo did.
Dude's got to get paid.
What's the other one? He fought the Raiders prop.
Oh, who was that?
Papali.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'd hate to get in a boxing ring with him.
Those Polynesian gentlemen are really powerful.
They
have really big muscles. Like they're like one of the most impressive things I've ever seen was Taniela Tupou, who's now playing at the Reds. Who, when I was at the Reds, he was a kid, and now he's a monster.
Yeah.
So we when the first year we were there, we did went to the army barracks and did the obstacle course there. So the above water obstacle course, as well as the on land ones. The above water obstacle course is like probably a 10 by 10 square meter kind of various tasks hanging above a pool.
Yeah.
So one of it was cargo net, some of it was just ropes hanging down, some of it was a ladder held horizontally, and you had to get all the way around, and then you get to do if you wanted to, a flip into the water afterwards. Like, I think 4 players out of the entire playlist made it all the way around, and Taniela Tupou, 18-year-old, was one, and he was like a rock spider up that thing. He just
wow.
And he was like 30 kilos, and he just moved like a little bloke like me, you know what I mean? Like, he's just so powerful. And now he's just an absolute beast because he's been training.
Does he come into recovery science?
Yeah, he's been a member for a while. Yeah,
I think he was in there yesterday.
Yeah, the most lovely human as well.
He literally like opened the door to the cold pools, and I was in the cold pool, so I didn't talk or anything. But I was like, holy fuck, that's a big human. Like he is a monster.
And he's hard too. Like
Yeah.
he just like
He was wearing like this fucking
brickwork.
He was wearing like a tight shirt, and his traps were just like, and then he had these
Full
fucking
delt.
boulders.
just
and you're like,
full like basketball
Yeah.
delts on the side.
it's like you're not supposed to have those. How?
Would you ever see him in the weights room? Would you get to see what kind of stuff they'd throw around?
Well, he was when I was there. He was like 17. Or he might. Yeah, he was 17. I think.
17, he was
Yeah.
that big.
Like he was big, but he was like, had a little bit of puppy fat. If I can say that without him getting upset. But now he's turned it into muscle, and he's a beast. He's just very genetically gifted for that sport.
Damn, genetics.
So I early days he played for Brothers.
Yep.
In one of the finals against Red Heavies Uni.
Yeah.
And we went to the game, watched it, and Uni be kicking off. Taniela would be standing in the in-goal area. Kick off, fullback, catch, Taniela. He would, every time he'd get it to about the 40 over the
Get out of
halfway,
it.
just because he would go burst, first tackle, burst, and just the team would just try to fold into behind him. It just became like road bumps, and they'd finally trip him to stop him. And then they were just on the ascendancy, and they ended up winning the game.
They won one off the back of that.
It was just like, here he goes, because he could move.
Wow.
And sharp. Yeah.
And he was fit.
Fit and fast. Like, yeah.
What a recipe.
He had everything.
Fuck.
Damn. And as a kid.
See, I was not that talented kid. But I also feel like we've skipped a lot of this.
What, the important part?
Like the important part of introducing
Well,
our
who this
guest. Yeah.
We can go reverse direction.
We
Couples only.
did. Oh. So, welcome to the Platform Podcast, Nathan Carlos. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I should have hit the applause button.
Were we having a pause button?
Yeah, I just don't know which one it is.
Oh, one of them.
I get
Anyway.
panicked.
Probably most people know me as Jackal.
Jackal.
Why?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know?
No.
No.
Oh, everyone. Yeah. So when you work in sport, you tend to get, as a staff member, you tend to get a name of an animal. They tend to stick. If you kind of don't like it, they tend to stick
They
more.
tend to
You know
really
what I mean? So the physio was above me at the Reds. He got Shark.
Yep.
It was a black sheep, buffalo, and I got Jackal. But
Jackal's
I
not too
had
bad.
last name Carlos. So there used to be a guy called Carlos Jackal before he got caught, and
Yep.
he's now spending, I think, 25 life sentences in a French prison because he was a bad dude.
Jesus.
The way the Jackal, yeah, he was.
I mean, for
He was a bad
25
dude,
life
so-
sentences, yeah.
Yeah, he was up there.
That's not a bad last name. That's not a bad sports name. Jackal.
It's kind of good, yeah.
that
Yeah, I
works.
feel like I would hate to be the black sheep.
Yeah, the black sheep was a dark human.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fuck.
yeah.
Always in trouble.
Yeah, brooding and dark, I think, would be the best way. Just if he wasn't in that type of mood, you stayed away. Would be best. Yeah.
Fucking hell.
So I think we asked the important question.
Oh, I think we have to, because I would love to hear this. I reckon it'd be really good though.
We're going to give you 21 sounds to find out who you are and what you do. Are you ready?
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that's like
so
21
every-
words and sounds.
Sounds. So if you cough, burp, fart, squeak, whistle, or use a word, we will count all of those.
But you have 21.
But you only have 21 of those.
And then the podcast is done.
And then the podcast starts. Are
He's
you
really
ready?
confused.
Sure.
He's so confused
I'm a
right
bit
now.
confused, but yeah.
That's okay.
Roll.
Go.
Noise. I'm doing 25. All right. Oh, yeah. Can you hear that? It's a bit noisy, the old joints these days. I can do that on a couple.
Fuck, for those who didn't see that or not watching the YouTube, he just tried to crack his knee into it. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
We've never had a knee crack noise count.
Thought it'd be do something a little bit interesting. Can I show my Adam's apple? Everyone gets into me about my Adam's apple. If you
Yep.
ever look at that profile,
Yeah, right.
yeah, it's
Can
quite
it
hard
make
to
noise?
shave too because it's quite sharp. And see how it's like actually not even in the middle of my
Yeah, it's
throat. It's
side.
like off to the side and
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
It's very unique.
so some of my nicknames. I'm sorry. I'm just running off of this.
That's fine.
So
I
used
think
to
you
get
went
called-
over 21, so it's fine.
I used to get called golf ball because of this. Then I got cornflake because it
Yep.
was it was better. And the last one, which is my personal favorite, was Toblerone.
Toblerone.
Yeah. So that one stuck a lot. So I still get called Toblerone.
I will now call you.
So we were at the beach hotel at Byron many moons ago when I was working at the Suns because we went on a little trip together with the staff. And I was just at the pub having a beer, whatever, and I just see this flash kind of out of the corner of my eyes, and I'm like, who would want to take a photo of me? I'm not a famous person. I'm not Thor.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just get a beep, beep message on my phone, pull it up, and it's a photo like straight through here, and the caption is most easterly point of Australia. I was like, touche.
That's actually really funny.
Yes, because we're at Byron too, which is the easterly point.
Very appropriate.
Yeah, it was very good.
Who took it?
Simon Fletcher, one of the staff members of the Reds, used to play AFL, and he was the welfare manager there at the Suns.
Yeah.
Fuck. So you've been around a few sports, a few codes.
I worked at the Lions I probably didn't. The first one was probably the Reds as a junior.
Yep.
Then I went to the Lions as a full-time position, and that was kind of a more senior role. So that was probably the steepest learning curve I've had. When you're working under like the great Lee Matthews.
Under Lee.
Big Lee.
Lethal Lee.
Big Barney Rubble. Really, really interesting learning curve, but good.
Yeah.
I think I used to come home with black circles under my eyes, and I would just lay in New Farm Park because I was living in the Valley time and just stare at the blue sky. And my wife would go, "Are you okay? You're going to die doing this job." I'm like, "I know, but I'm going to keep doing it." Like, it was bizarre. But you definitely kind of went in probably a boy, come out stronger at the end. And then I think it was there 6. Yeah.
6 years?
No. Yeah, something like that. Did the reserves first and then did the seniors. Then went to the Suns for the first 2 years they came in the AFL.
Oh, wow.
That was interesting. That was so fun.
Yeah.
Fun job. Part living down the coast, so I had freedom away from the missus. Like I'd wake up, I'd go for a run, go for a swim,
at the beach,
go have breakfast, go to the club, work a big day, go for a swim, come home, get some food, go to bed, wake up, go for a run, go for a swim. Like I just felt like I was going to live to be 100. It was so great.
Wow.
And then we got pregnant and we were trying. So she's like, "Hey, holiday's over. Time to come home." So then came back to a position at the Reds.
Yep.
And I was there for 3 years and then was kind of transitioning out to kind of more, as you're going to find out, father-friendly type work. So I set up a clinic and been doing that 6 years.
Yeah,
soon.
right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I did a little stint at the Raw for about 5 months because they moved a physio on, and I said I'll come in and just help out until you find somebody else. So they got a guy came out from England, so it took a while to get his requirements.
Yep.
And that was kind of fun too. They went going real great. I think I'm a bit of a touch of death of teams. Every team I've worked for haven't really
gone up.
Got up a bit. And then I came in at the Reds after, so I came there 2012. So it was after they had the highs and they were unfortunately kind of nipping the nose back down. But working under Ewan McKenzie was probably one of the greatest experiences ever.
That was unreal.
Yeah, so Link's listening, the great Link, missing Link.
Yeah.
He's one of the greatest coaches. If you could ever go and hear him talk, or if you ever know that you're in the room with him, go up and say, Jackal says hello, which will break the ice.
Yep.
And then go and talk to him. Yeah.
Imagine if he did that, he just punches you in the face.
Yeah.
No, he's not the most welcoming man, being an ex-prop and everything. But like once you get to know him, he's really nice. Like my job interview with him was this. So I rang the physio. I said, "Hey mate, I was coming from the Suns today," and I said, "Hey, we got a job going. I kind of need to come back to Brisbane." He's like, "Mate, I'm actually leaving this year, so I could put you in, and I'm gonna go out." And I said, "That would be unreal." So I talked to the strength and conditioning coach. They kind of head the departments in most footy clubs. So I met him, and then he said, "Oh, yeah, this looks good. Probably go and get you to meet Ewan."
Ooh.
I'm like, "Cool." And then somehow we worked it that we were both at the airport at the same time. So the Suns were at the airport and the Reds were at the airport on this particular day because I knew they were going to Africa or whatever. I said, "Well, look, I'm going to be at the airport between 10 and 11.
Let's catch up.
let's catch up. So we all catch up there. So me, Link, strength and conditioning coach, and Link goes, what a cafe, would you like a drink? Just grabbed a cup of tea before I drank coffee.
Yep.
So that was before kids.
Yep.
When you get kids, you drink a lot.
Now
more
you start having coffee.
Yeah. So we sat down, had a cup of tea, and he sat down. So he literally got the coffee, put it down, and said, so Nathan, I don't know if you're a good physio or not, but we'll just have a go and see how we go. And then walked off.
Oh, that was it?
And I was like,
I've got the job.
I've got a job. And the show says, yeah, I think so. They're like,
that's
what?
how the Reds hide.
That's how we get jobs. Then the first week, he comes down and he just leans over and goes, hey, settling in? I'm like, yeah, I think so. And that was good because I'd known a few of the players from my first stint there. So I knew Kevy, I knew Quaid and Will. So they could kind of say, yeah, he's going to be okay. He's not going to be a dud.
They vouch for you.
So kind of helped to break a lot of ice. Not with everyone, but with most.
Yeah.
And he goes, all right, so just to let you know, if I'm coming down into your physio room a bit, we've got a problem. Other than that, I'll leave you alone. And then walked out again. It was like this cryptic, and it was the most fantastic thing I ever heard, to be honest, because
that gives you free.
He goes, I'll trust you to do your job if you do it well. But if I'm coming down here lots means I've lost the trust, right? So he didn't micromanage, and he didn't always agree with, I'd say, I think this should be the plan for this player, and we'd have challenges and we discuss things.
Yep.
But it was so good. Like the coaches that maybe weren't as mature in their approach to it would just micromanage and just squeeze and push you a lot.
Yep.
And you probably spend 20% of your job just covering yourself to make sure nothing bad happens, which is actually really inefficient in a high performance environment. Yeah. And if I told you, if we took off the veil and looked under the hood a bit further, you'd be amazed how much that can really erode a team, a footy club, can bring a footy club down almost, as we've kind of seen with some in more recent times.
Yep.
And that's kind of interesting too. It sits in with, when I first started in sport, every team had a sports psych. Within a couple of years, no team had a sports psych. Really? Towards the end of my career and time in sport, the culture experts, the welfare people, sports psyche kind of conglomerate position was back in. So it was kind of an evolution of
why. What I feel like during that period, if anything, the attention and presence of one, mental welfare, mental health, but also performance mindset, the attention to it's been dramatically increased.
Correct. But then maybe they weren't doing it right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. I wasn't party to those meetings, but if the club decides that we don't need that position anymore, that they obviously perceive of no value to it. There's a dietitian there, and dietitians have stayed there, right? It's like, you got to eat good, otherwise you're going to put on too much weight and we can't perform, so that's massive. I think potentially a small flaw is people bring in ex-footy people. So ex-footy people bring their baggage of ex-footy people without some of that knowledge and expertise, but they try to just pass on what they learn to players, perhaps rightly or wrongly. And that's maybe why evolution of those positions coming back into football departments has happened, because it needs to balance out experience of ex-players with what does the science say, what does get into your reading lists and maybe stuff later, but philosophy and things like that. You got to manage the human. It's the athlete, yes, but it's the human at the end of the day, because if their personal life is breaking down, they cannot.
What we're just fucking talking about.
I was going to do an article. If I was still in sport, I was going to do an article to show the correlation between breaking up with your girlfriend and tearing your hamstring.
Really?
Yeah.
Very common.
I would say I could find a statistical significance.
Really?
Yeah. Because so what would happen is...
So would you put them on hamstring watch if you knew they'd broken up with a girlfriend then?
Well, the question is to try and find that out before it happens.
Oh, yeah,
'cause
yeah.
You find it out when the guy's limping off the field, and you
You're
go,
like-
"Hey, mate, what's up?" And he goes, missus a fight," and you're like,
Fuck.
because obviously the missus kicks them out. They sleep on the couch or the floor and loads
Yeah.
their back up, and then they're just angry and aggression, and they probably push themselves too fast and they tear their hamstring. That's probably the biggest factor.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
that is the recent thing that you probably hang your hat on with that.
Yeah.
It's
So it's the stuff off the field.
so that's why we used to have all these kind of safety touch points before training to see if we could find out some of those things. And sometimes if that happened, if they weren't right, mate, you just sit on a bike, do something else. You're going to cross train or do something else because it would just be perceived as being too risky.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of, you got to have a fair bit of fortitude within yourself to go to a coach and say, mate, I think this guy needs to sit out because I think something's going to twang today.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, because that's the last thing a coach wants to hear, right? That their player, their star dude, or whichever needs a break because of something that's happened off the field.
but if you do that and they save themselves a 6-week injury, you're a
Yeah.
genius.
You're a genius.
But then
yeah.
you don't, did I? By
Yeah.
missing that session, you know what I mean? Which is so hard. But people who get it and understand it, who are fingers on the pulse, which I think the good guys really are,
Yeah.
they will make that call every day,
Yeah, yeah.
especially if it's verified with a few
Did
stuff.
a lot of those
Yeah.
coaches, like you spoke about Lee Matthews, you got Mackenzie, Eddie Jones, like they were products, of, I believe, of a different era. Would they take that sort of approach? Or were they still kind of that school of hard knocks?
Yep. It's pretty hard to unlearn that. I think it's fairly in your DNA. Like Lee Matthews broke a goalpost.
What?
Yeah, he snapped a goalpost. He like ran to a goalpost and it like fell over. Yeah, YouTube it or something. Yeah.
Jesus. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
know that.
And he would say, well, because you'd have some conversation with him off the cuff, and he'd be like, even he looks back and he goes, "Yeah, I did some bad things." There's no cameras.
It's actually one of the first thing that comes up.
You could. There's no cameras, so there'd be cheap shots everywhere. You know, like you'd be standing up one end, the ball's up the other, and some guy just
whack you.
just whack you without even looking.
Glory days of AFL happening there.
Yeah, so definitely. But nowadays, obviously, you've got a different athlete. The athletic requirements now are significantly probably greater.
Have you seen that shift in your time? Like be significant?
Well, if you look at let's just go back to the years of when the Lions won their Triple P.
Yeah.
Like they were big and they had some beautiful runners through the middle of the field.
Oh, hang on. Here we go.
Some great tight pack.
When does he break it?
He must break it now. Right.
Does he just run into it?
There it is.
Holy shit.
I think that umpire.
That umpire looked like he got fucked up as well.
Yeah, he's limping.
Here we go. He just runs into it.
Jesus.
Literally took out the umpire too.
Doesn't look like there's much pads around it. How good's that mo, by the way?
Yeah, strong.
You're bringing it back, son.
I'm going to try. So you can see big evolution in what a player can do.
Let's just go big picture. Look at the team the Lions had back in those days. They had some big bodies like Mal Michael, you know, the Scott brothers at the back who could just
Jonathan Brown,
physically.
Alistair Lynch.
Yeah, so big tall timber at so two big targets up the top.
Yeah.
Big timber at the back, bashing people around.
Yeah.
And then the slickest midfield, like one of the slickest midfields ever. You know what I mean? So great run, Ackermanis, Voss, Power, Black, Headland, like just
guys that could move.
Hart, like just whoo. So just boom, ball through, you know, so they could physically match it with you / intimidate you,
dominate you,
and then slick and move and score points on you.
Yep.
Then actually this was a bit of a story that I heard through players as I was in that space that so even Gary Ablett Jr. when I was at Suns, I talked to him, I go like, mate, what was it like playing the Lions back in those early days? He goes, they used to just punch me, bash me. I hated playing them. Because there was one game, I think, where the Lions beat them by like 140 points or something. And it was all the young kids like Ling and Gaz Ablett, but they were kids and they just got manhandled.
Yeah.
fast forward a few years, you know what I mean? Then the tides were turned, right? And even the Geelong time, they're kind of 07, I think, 9 flags. They were still physical, but again had slick ball movement.
Yep.
Got into the corridor, moved the ball quickly, scored goals.
Yeah.
They were physical. And then kind of the next era beyond that and starting around that was your Cousins and your Judd who said, nah, we're going to beat them with run. Yeah. And they just started being slick and outrunning them, because then the game was more faster, less combative and congested, quick. And if you look now, that's kind of stayed, hasn't it? And now you look at their bodies now, they're more like middle distance runners than they're not, put a photo of Voss up, and then, most midfielders now, there's a fair slimming down of the athlete, because the run is just huge. Doing something like 17 Ks of high speed running. High speed. That's a huge load physiologically and physically on your system. If you went and jogged 17K, you'd be okay. Yeah. But if I said, right,
I don't know if I would be.
You're gonna run 17K intermittent high speed
with some possible contact.
Oh my God,
as well.
With contact, change of direction, everything's huge. And now the game's obviously quick, and they get the ball and throw it back in quick at them, so.
That's with a lot of sports, though. If we look at, I'm not a big AFL fan, but NRL is so quick these days. Yeah. The speed of the game is being
They took a sub off from this year, didn't they? Isn't there one less substitute?
Oh,
and a couple other things to make the game go faster.
And it's everything now is just becoming quicker. Even I caught the last 10 minutes of last week's Reds game, and it just seemed like it was just full on. Just kept going and going. And I see that in all sports now. The games are just becoming faster to grab people's attention, draw them in, and it's a money thing.
Exactly. Money. Yeah, it's viewership, it's money, it's excitement, it's eyeballs. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think rugby fell down, is it slowed down.
Yep.
So how much, this is the question for you. You gave me the 21. I'm going to give you one question back.
Ooh. Oh, we got more.
How, in rugby, you've got stoppages and then in-ball play. How much in-ball play time do you think is in a game, an 80-minute game of rugby?
Oh, not much.
I don't know.
I wouldn't say. I'd say less.
Not the 80 minutes.
So at 80 minutes, an 80-minute game, how much of that is
actual play?
How much play?
60 minutes?
I was going to say 60.
26.
What?
Really?
26, ball in play out of the 80 minutes. Some teams get it down to as low as 23. So we used to have the numbers on it from our sports analysts and things like that. And teams that tried to beat you with set piece, they'd slow it down. It'd be 23 minutes in ball play. South African teams were kind of good for that. They kick the ball out, scrums, line outs, because they would try to get you there.
Yep.
Whereas the teams that were slicker would try to kick the ball in and play and go, like your All Blacks and probably more Aussie teams.
Yep.
26 minutes. So you can see 26 minutes out of 80, that's not super exciting. So as a TV product, you probably let yourself down there a bit.
Yep.
And I reckon
that's actually that's a really good point, because if we compare it to rugby league in Australia, which is the more watched sport, it is just that fast pace. It is entertaining.
Correct.
And then with rugby, it's just slow. And I think what kills it with rugby is, the option to take field goals at will, where it will give you 3 points, or a penalty kick because the ball's so much lighter, you can kick it further. But that's not exciting. People want to see freak athletic ability.
And running rugby.
Yeah. We watch rugby league now, and wingers are diving over the line in the most acrobatic fashion. And it's, except if you're Xavier Coates and land on your neck. But it's insane.
Have you seen that different code NFL guy? I think it's from the Bears. A couple of years ago, ran up, defender coming towards him. He goes, "Huh," and just goes bang, flips over him.
I saw that.
And kind of puts his hand on him for break. Does a full flip, lands on his feet, touchdown. Just
that's insane.
Just bang.
NFL is another sport I'm surprised has lasted. We're talking about speed of the game. Man, it takes a long time.
They do like a long sport in America. Baseball.
Yeah, baseball's similar, isn't it?
Yeah. But they kind of go there. They bring their utes with their trays and their big barbecue at the back, and they bang, and they're on the beers.
Yeah.
You get 100,000 people to a college game over there.
Yeah.
Scotty Harding, one of the Brisbane Lions AFL players, he went over and played for Hawaii State University. Good gig. And I was chatting to him once. He's like, "Yeah, man, I played I think it's called All the Way Home. If you get from a kick, get the ball probably close to your own goal, and he's gone all the way through and gone touchdown all the way home, I think it's called. And he said in front of 93,000 people, he goes, it was the most magnificent experience ever.
Holy,
That's pretty cool.
It's almost fully packed MCG.
For a college game
every week.
Yeah. Like, wow.
That's hard to get your head around, isn't it? And we're getting what, 20,000 to the Broncos?
And they don't get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck. Jesus.
Zero cash.
Do they get sponsorships at college level?
I think they'll get education, but they get food and I think board as well.
Yeah.
As part of their scholarship. But then obviously the lure is NFL contract.
Yeah.
Have you watched that ESPN Broke documentary? It's probably a little bit old now.
Nah.
Used to be on YouTube. They took it down. It'll be out there somewhere. It talks about all the footy blokes, how they just they're broke. Because in the NFL, they only pay you, I'm quite sure, for the 14-week season, that is.
That's it.
So they don't pay you for the rest. And you can't train at the club for the rest of the year. That's why they go to these big sports facilities and train in the off-season.
Right.
And most guys spend all their money before the next season comes around and they're out of cash. Because they got this kind of thing called helmet syndrome because they wear helmets all the time. No one really knows who they are. So when they go out, they probably flash their cash around too much.
Yeah, right.
And then their lifespan
too much.
Lifespan of a gridiron guy is only probably a couple of years too, right?
It can be small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their injuries are fucking...
Yeah.
For all the padding as well, like their injuries are pretty fucking high.
Well, they just dive. Like they'll just dive head first at your knees.
With the helmet coming at it.
Just what head, the whole body at knee in the wrong direction is not going to be great.
That's going to keep a physio like you very busy.
Remember RG from Redskins a few years ago? I think did his lateral. He might have done his ACL. I'm not sure. In the playoffs, and they're like this big brace, just getting back out there like 2 weeks later. Like on one leg and just throwing, and then I think something happened. The ball fumbled, and he's gone for it and just twisted, and then he's blew apart the rest of his knee. It just was the most like you just watch it, and you're just like, oh, just watch his knee just go. Yeah.
I can't handle those injuries.
But they just need their guns out there.
Yeah,
like just
whatever it takes.
Imagine how valuable Tom Brady is to a team or the quarterback. Huge.
After what he's done, he is like fucking. He'd be worth so much right now.
Oh, yeah.
He's winning in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Married a supermodel, family, good looking rooster, heaps of cash. Good on you.
Crushed it and still kicking along.
But also he early on, just everyone said, you're not going to make it. You're too slow. Your hands are too small. And just fought his way back to the top. It's good. That's a story. Yeah. I think he's done one of those ESPN things as well.
That's cool.
I'm not sure if this is true, but the word on the street was that in a few moons ago, like decades ago, there was a couple of players that consistently got overlooked for NRL development teams and Queensland teams. Jonathan Thurston, Cameron Smith.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Got overlooked as kids, you know what I mean? Just, too slow, too scrawny, whatever.
Thurston talked about it in his biography.
And then like, no, I show you.
Yeah.
Like he was playing. He had one of those shoulder braces on for. There's a brace to stop you dislocating your shoulder that has a strap that runs to your diagonally opposite thigh to stop you winding out here and dislocating your shoulder. And he wore that for a long time. If you ever watch it go out for a high ball, he'd always pull his leg up because he had a brace and he couldn't get his arms up. He couldn't get his arms up if it was down.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, go back and have a look at footage. Yeah, he would play like he had. I think dodgy groin there for a while.
Yeah.
I think he had the bung shoulder there for one of the State of Origin.
He did. State of Origin 2017.
Just
came back and
full
won
talisman. Just full.
Just wants to work and win.
But also, like, imagine you're playing and you're like, yeah, JT's here. Like, he's out here.
The stories that you read, because I went on a run. I got given Cam Smith's autobiography for Christmas, and I like to read, but I've never read like a 400-page book in 3 days. Couldn't put the thing down. It was just like reliving all the NRL. So then I went on this run and I read Lockyer's, Thurston's, and then just finished Billy Slater's the other night. They all talk about the origin moments like that. How they're all just like, there's players hurting, knocked out, they come back on. Thurston's was probably one of the biggest where he
was like this. He
couldn't move it.
lifeless.
It's also like when Cooper Cronk in the 2018
With the fractured scap.
Yeah, the fractured scap, and he was just out there directing people. But how valuable is that to a team?
They won too. So
Yeah, against the Storm, against a well fucking oiled machine like the Storm.
He's come into recovery science a bit. We've had a few NRL teams come through. So when I was at the Suns, we went over to Flagstaff in Arizona to do an altitude training camp.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
And then like Cooper Cronk's there.
he's already they're just doing
Just
his own training.
So we went there. I think the Brisbane Lions sent over a few players, and he went with a few of the Brisbane Lion players as a bit of a test group, and he went with them. And
Yep.
you know, he kind of rubbed shoulders with a few of the players, and he went up there on his own bat, paid for himself, kind of just to squeeze a little bit more out
Get
of
the
himself.
edge out.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's funny how they do that though. Like, and the top level guys will. Like,
If you ever watch like Cristiano Ronaldo, his workouts, he does more than anyone.
It's the reason why
Like
they're the
Michael
best.
Phelps, maybe read Michael Phelps one too. Like I think he just went on and said like, whatever you prescribe me, I'm going to do double. I'm going to do twice it.
have you
And he did it and just.
have you read the book Relentless by Tim S. Grover?
I've listened to him a fair bit.
Yeah.
Like talks about closes. And,
Yeah. He was he was the first weight coach Michael Jordan ever hired, and he was in that doco.
No,
on
he
Netflix.
made Michael Jordan hire him.
Yeah.
He, like, went and knocked on his door and said,
Literally.
you need me.
Yeah,
Michael Jordan's like, nah. He's like, yeah, you do.
and he like sat down, wrote out
He
this
did Kobe
plan.
too.
Yeah, he's like now the go-to guy in the NBA for like strength coaching. But he was a fucking like listening to his book, and he talks about the closers and cleaners, whatever. That's how he kind of describes the people. There's something not right with him. You're like, there's a screw loose something somewhere that has made you like this, and it's fucking incredible.
Mm.
He's just another level. He's on another level. But you got to be.
I think too, you'd watch, like, let's go back to 80s, 90s, like your big tall guys, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and these types of guys were just really tall, and he would just stand there and do the sky hook and go point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like his athleticism and ability to move maybe wasn't quite as good. Even the ruckmen in the AFL were kind of tall and skinny. Fast forward 20 years, like they're now beasts, right? And they move well. They're getting the ball off the ground. LeBron James moves like a guard, but plays tall because he's just athleticism is just so ridiculous because of the extra work that he puts into.
Yep.
More is better, not less.
More is better. More is more.
More is always more.
More is very much more. Nick, I'm super curious. The role of a physio at a sports team like you've been on, what does it encapsulate? What do you actually do? What do you look after?
That's a good word.
Does it change between clubs before I cut you off? Or does each club kind of have their own?
Nuances of sport, definitely. There's different nuances in different sport, but you're just trying to maximize the athletic potential that is in that playing group.
Yeah, right.
So that is, you know, the kind of how we used to describe it was if you wrap them in cotton wool too much, you don't break them. And it looks good for me because I've got really good injury stats, but they can't perform. To use an example of that, there was an AFL team who adopted someone in a higher position at their footy club, and he was very hell-bent on having the lowest injury profile stats in the AFL, and he got it. But they lost 80% of their games in the third quarter because they couldn't run out games because they hadn't trained enough to get the exposure to. So injury down, suck the performance down. Does that make sense? So what's the right answer there? That's not good. So maybe we've got to get a few more injuries, but get the performance up so we can win bloody games on the weekend.
Yep.
Go too far and you break them all the time, and your best guys are sitting on the bench, you're going to lose games, right?
Yep.
So it's the not too hot, not too cold is really difficult.
It's like that.
You got so many individuals trying to work out.
It's individual. I can't give you the same as you. You broke up with your girlfriend, so I'm definitely not going to give you the same as this one.
Your hamstring's about to blow. So.
Yeah.
And like, you know, while I'm a physio and you look after the physical stuff, like, yes, you've injured your shoulder. We need to do X, Y, and Z to get you back. But it's like huge mental as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, you've got a lot of, you would imagine it's very aligned and everyone's like, we're trying to go in this direction, but there is a bit of tug. You know, everyone's got a little bit of an agenda. You know, physio doesn't want them to get injured, and the strength and conditioning coach wants to push them so they can be better. But at the end of the day, one of the sayings was, a good strength and conditioning program for a sports team won't win you a league, but it can lose you one. Does it make sense? So like if you train too hard, bust them all, or you good guys sitting on the bench, you're going to get dusted every week.
Yep.
So you got to keep your stars out there.
It is just a balancing act, isn't it?
So very, very difficult. And when you think, I'm going to focus on, like for me, I went, all right, I'm going to try really hard to not get many hamstring strains this year. So we're going to do this, we're going to do Nordics, we're going to do heaps of eccentric work. We're going to sprint them because you need to expose them to high speed running, because that's probably one of the best preventative things that there is. You know, and then, you know, you're like, yeah, cool. Look at my injury stats in the year. Less hamstrings, but we had 5 ACLs. You know what I mean? You're like,
fuck.
So then you go and do knees, and then you're like, oh, we're getting calf strains. Like, you know, it's like
putting fires.
Put that one there, and the water pops up there. Put that there, water pops up there. So you're kind of trying to constantly be doing that, and that's the job as the whole department to do that as best you can.
So you're working directly with the strength S&C coach.
We would talk every day, multiple times a day, have probably 2 medical meetings a week, and then maybe another 1 or 2 just, hey mate, what do we think about Johnny on, you know, what do we think about Brandon on this, you know, like, you know, we've got this game coming up closely. The old guys probably aren't going to pull up as well for the 5-day turnaround we've got coming up. So do we try to think about limiting their game time or give them that game off so that they're not fatigued going into that game, because we really need to win that game. You know, you're kind of balancing your resources of players.
And one of my favorite sayings is, you know, you're trying to fly as close to the sun as you can without getting burned. And that's S&C in the sporting world. It's how much
physio, it's S&C, it's the athlete as well.
It's how much can we get out of them before we burn them. And that's a fucking hard task to do. When you're, as you said before, how big's a squad though? Like you got 30 players in a squad. 40 players in a squad. That means 40 individual rehab plans if there's an injury. There's 40 individual fucking prehab plans. That's a lot to manage.
And a lot of guys probably carrying, would it be right to say, like a niggle here, or they've all got their own little things.
It's kind of funny, like, give you a couple of stories. One guy I heard he got literally a knock to his shoulder, all purple.
Yeah.
Tested it. I think there's not much going on your shoulder, but yeah, there's a lot of bruising. MRI'd him. Shoulder was clear, just a lot of soft tissue bruising. So I'm like, it's a cork, right? So I think, mate, I think you're going to be right for this week.
I'm scared.
You know, and then during the week, he's like, mate, my shoulder doesn't feel very good. Doesn't feel good. And I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll try a bit more padding and we'll do this. We'll see how we go. And he just was making noises, and I'm like, something's up here. Something doesn't smell right. Like it's a cork shoulder, yeah. And then let's fast forward to after the event. So it turns out the player was on 99 games. We're about to play a lowly South African team that no one cares about so much, but he was about to play his 100th game against his old club. You know what I mean? So he kind of wanted the 100th game for that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you little bugger. You know what I mean? Like, but that's what you're dealing with. Like, and we didn't find that out till afterwards, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or someone cottoned onto it at some point. But yeah, so that's like, you're dealing with that. And then you've got the other extreme where you've got a guy who's got like a super dodgy Achilles, like Achilles tendinopathy, chronic problem. Kind of run through it and play through it. And I'd say, mate, I think we need to shut you down for this period, because we have a bye and we can potentially get your symptoms to really rock down before we kind of hit the next block. And he'd turn around and look you in the eye and say, nobody gets my spot. No. And you like, I can only say, man, I think this would be a good plan. And he would go, no. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, cool. But I think there's inherent risks in it. And I think these are like, it might bubble out of control and could cost you the second half of the season. He goes, no one gets my spot. And he would keep playing.
And would you get guys trying to hide injury as well? Like,
Well, that's a classic
Yeah.
example where he would,
it just wouldn't limp it, wouldn't show it in front
again,
of you.
because, you know, if you lose your spot and then someone gets your spot and plays good, you might not get back.
Yeah.
And if you got contract negotiations at the end of the year, like, I need to play because I need to watch how good players will play the year coming into signing a new contract.
Yeah.
They play out of their skins.
Fucking hell.
That's why clubs don't like long-term contracts, because you can go hiding for a few years, you know. But like, if you watch a players up for contract, they'll play noticeably better than they were a year or two before.
Wow.
Just drive and motivation, isn't it, in there to, and I'm sure you see that with lifting as well. Like, if there's like, you can just tell. You just look at someone, you go, oh, you got this. Like, you'd be able to tell before.
Oh, mate.
You can tell before. Easy.
We were talking about one of my clients, and shout out to Andrew Lang, squatted 400 the other day for the first time. And I was like, watched his 375, and I was like, I was confident, but I was like, fuck, I really need him to switch on and just hit this next one. Like, I need it to move perfect. And just before it, he's sitting there and wrapping his knees, and he got up to the bar, yelled at the bar, and like, before he's even gotten under, it was like, oh, he's got this. I don't even need to spot this right now. I know he's got it. And he did. Nailed it.
Fucking nailed it.
He fucking nailed it. And it is just that drive. As soon as there's a little bit more motivation.
That flow state too. Have you guys read much on that? And that's huge.
Have you read The Rise of Superman by Stephen Kotler?
No, but he wrote the one Playing with Fire, Stealing Fire or something. He's that one as well. That's on my to-do list. I've done the cheat and kind of listened to a few of his talks. And Stealing Fire, I think it is. It's
Chick sent me a high who studied flow. I don't know if he's the one that kind of founded the whole, or coined the term. Coiled. I'm on fine today.
We're really coiling.
Yeah, we're coiling good.
Coined the term flow. He wrote a book too, but his was a bit drier. Whereas Stephen Kotler, The Rise of Superman, discusses like Red Bull athletes and those high, like, what's that, adrenaline pumping sports like surfing and stuff, big wave surfing, and talks about the flow state there and how to create it, and not just sport, but
they're trying to do it in Silicon Valley with business, you know what I mean? So they're doing like LSDs and microdosing mushrooms and things like that. So
there's even new technology now that, like, have you heard of the Apollo watch?
Yeah, is that Newcom as well? There's a few kind of.
It's all like working on vibration, and then you can get like earplugs that that work with the vagus nerve to promote different states, wake you up, put you to sleep, calm you down.
Also, the breathing stuff too is huge. We do that a lot in recovery science. It's, mate, you can control your own physiology way more than you think. You know what I mean? Like way more. Like, I'm still constantly amazed with that.
Did you lads ever see the movie Lucy with Scarlett Johansson and Morgan Freeman?
Mate,
I watch Wiggles movies.
Kids, you don't get much. That's my future.
Well,
she unlocked her brain.
So what is it like? We use 10% of our brain,
5, I think it was.
something ridiculous, and then she gets given this drug that, and it's based off real theories of what would happen if we were able to unlock 10% or 20% of our brain. It's a pretty good movie.
Yeah,
it gets a bit weird towards the end, but
real fucking weird. She turns into a USB chip.
Oh yeah, forgot about that. But
it's pretty fucking cool.
It is a cool concept to think what we could do if we actually had full conscious control of every system of our body.
We will one day. We're not ready for that yet. I reckon, as a species.
Oh fuck no. As a whole society,
we're doing some things good, but a lot of things not so good.
Yeah.
I go down that rabbit hole a lot. Like, what happens after you die, consciousness. You know, like, think about it this way. Does it make that much sense that you were nothing? Your parents got together, they made you. And if you think, what are you right now, is you're essentially a collection of the food that you've eaten. That's all your body is. And your DNA, which is information passed down from all your forefathers. So you're a blueprint and energy. Like,
Weird.
Getting kind of driven, if you will, by consciousness, like, and which is kind of probably very hard to
how do you
even just work that out.
Yeah.
Where does how do you even define consciousness?
Oh, that's big.
Yeah.
I listened to a couple of guys, Dr. Bruce Lipton and this other guy, I think Tom Carroll. is like essentially a biologist over here and a physicist, and they're old dudes, and they've just done their research, and they've both kind of ended up at the same point.
Really?
Where they go, like, you're obviously here on Earth, whatever, experiencing things, you know, like you have nerves so that they can sense the environment, transmit that signal back to your brain to learn. You have smell, taste, you've got all these senses to extract information from your environment. Like your gut is getting information from the food in that environment. You know, like if you eat stressed out foods, chances are your gut biome will sense it and probably be affected. You know, so you're gathering information from the environment. So go somewhere to something to learn. Otherwise, why bother? Why not just sit on a hoverboard all day and just cruise around and do nothing? Like, you know, just be on jet skis every day.
Have you read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson?
No, but I've listened to him a bit. Yeah.
I didn't like it. I thought it was real basic bitch kind of, and like, I don't know, it just annoyed me. I think the title threw me off a lot as well. But what you just said there is like, you know, what's the point? He makes this fucking good argument. I wouldn't even say it's an argument. He makes a good point, sorry, at the end of the book where he talks about, you know, his best friend didn't commit suicide, jumped off a cliff when he was drunk, hit the bottom, found his body 3 hours later type thing. He went through his depression. And then he kind of was sitting on his couch one day and he was like, well, we're all going to die anyway. So if there's no point to anything, there's no reason that we can't do anything either. And I was kind of like, I just pondered on that. And I was like, that's an interesting perspective on it. I've never heard that before. Because, you know, I mean, we've all heard the saying when you're a bit sick and your mum goes, well, you're not going to die. I was like, oh, cool. But I think it's very interesting. If there's no point to doing anything, then in the reverse of that, there's no point that we can't do anything.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's probably the inbuilt safety mechanism, because if we kind of probably realize our full potential, you'd probably wig out. You know? Think about it this way. Like energy can't be created or destroyed, right? It just changes form. So, you know, like that energy must change forms when you die, essentially. So those guys I was talking about, you know, they talk about the fact that your consciousness is essentially driving this avatar, which is your body, gathering information and experiences and sending it back to the mothership. And, you know, you're gathering, and if we can collect it enough to put it together, it's kind of funny how we have this internet thing now to be able to connect consciousness, if you will. It's like the architecture is getting created to communicate easily and freely is kind of happening. But Elon Musk is just trying to do that with telepathy anyway, using Neuralink. So, he's trying to, I think, pretty much boost the power in your brain to.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, it's next
level. He's on a whole nother level, that bloke.
Wow. Do you think about it this way? Like, you both, like that, you probably a transmission tower and receiving station for energy, essentially, I think.
Well, I think we give energy off,
but you got to be able to receive it too.
We receive it in various forms, and we sense it, as you said before. But my question to yourself is, I'm not a religious person, which is quite weird because I grew up with Italian parents who are fucking very Christian and Catholic, and go to church every Sunday for a bit there. So I was brought up with that kind of mind, but I was just like, I don't buy into it. But do you believe there is some sort of higher power? Do you believe there is something out there that either governs what we do, or are we, one of my favorite things, like we are just a vessel for the universe to experience itself?
I think it makes sense. And I mean, probably not that I've read the Bible that much myself, but I say you're created in God's image. Or you're essentially a little bit of God that he gives to you for you to go and experience. It gives you free will. You know what I mean? So it makes much more sense that consciousness, energy, or whatever you want to call it, maybe religion's another word for it if you want to kind of put that label on it. Like it's all the freaking same. It's kind of weird that we just try to create divisions artificially for no good reason. You know what I mean? And when we were tribes, the tribe would bring up the kids, you know what I mean? But now the tribes are fragmented and and we send them to daycare. So that's kind of like the tribe now. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of bizarre. We're fragmenting ourselves a little bit, not kind of being more together.
Yeah.
Like look at every group. Like what do? Get together, have a big feast. The Polynesians have a good culture of that. Sunday roasts. I'm sure the Italians are the same. The Greeks love it. And still sharing. So it's almost like the transfer of information kind of very quickly becomes love. You know what I mean? And love kind of becomes like the consciousness, and it's adding to more to create more energy, if you will. And then you've gone to the level of creating a new human, which is you've actually created matter from energy.
Yeah, true.
Equals MC squared.
Yeah.
Boom.
Bam.
Fuck. That went down a rabbit hole.
Made a fucking.
That's deep.
Made
Yeah.
some superhumans.
Loved it.
There's that's probably the wormhole into some other alternate place.
We'll take some LSD and then be on this whole nother level.
Is that a space of enjoyment you're enjoying to go down at the moment? That little rabbit hole of trying to work out what's going on there?
I think as you get older,
Get more
and
curious.
you approach probably death, to be honest, is
Yeah.
you kind of like you're doing this and like you're swimming in the ocean, right? It's probably a good idea to stick your head up and see if you're going towards the buoy, because if the current takes you over there and the buoy's over there, you're going to be lost pretty quick. So I think that's your life, right? You want to stick your head up, look, make sure you're kind of orienting yourself in a direction you want to go, and then swim a bit, then probably want to look up, am I still going this way?
Yep.
So sorry, you just prompted me. Book that everyone needs to read is The Denial of Death by Ernest Becker. So the denial.
I think that's on my list. I think I've got that.
Yeah, he passed away in 1975 or 1977.
And then he wrote it in 82. Oh.
The book was written in 1973, work of psychology and philosophy by the cultural anthropologist. I fucked that up. Ernest Becker, in which it builds on the works that people of like Sigmund Freud. So he was this professor in the States, got fired from so many universities because he was bringing anthropology studies into like science studies and then trying to, I guess, cross match. He kept getting fired because his work was so fucking crazy. Then he got diagnosed with cancer, and then he went through this whole like philosophical unraveling and created this book being like The Denial of Death. It's fucking, everyone should read that. I think it triggers something or starts asking the right questions for a person.
I suppose what I did a couple of years ago is I started looking down these rabbit holes a bit, and then I kind of found Stoic philosophy, kind of ancient Greek kind of thinkers, and you follow through and read and scratch at that a bit, and you get down, and it kind of like boils down to a few key messages, right? And you're like, oh, okay, well then that's 3,000 years old, and that sounds like that applies to me now. That's probably a pretty good truth. That's probably a pretty good maxim for life right there. Then I kind of jumped over to like the Tao Te Ching. Okay, so yin yang, you know, scratched at that a little bit and went down that road a bit. I'm like, oh, okay, so you're pretty much saying the same thing. So
that was my next thing.
True. Yeah. And then I actually ended up like in the Indic mysticism, yoga, and I'm like, oh, okay, so you're saying the same thing as well. Kind of, it was like 3 separate areas in the world, thousands of year-olds teaching, and it's like as applicable today as it was back then. Like that's truth. And you know, like I think a lot of those things come out in religion. It comes out in like I like Jordan Peterson a lot. And a lot of the stuff he says, you can kind of boil that back to a lot of these principles too. Like they're just truths that was the best thing I ever did for my own head, because let me tell you, as you get in your mid-40s.
How old are you?
44.
Get fucked. I thought you were younger than him.
Well, he's had a hard life.
Hey.
I mean, he doesn't look his age.
Yeah,
Are you out? I thought you were 34.
Nah, 44.
Get fucked.
So
We've done a lot of things.
I tell you what, I don't enjoy how my body feels now, hence the
knee
the
clicks.
Yeah, just let you know, on the 12th of May, I'm booked in to get 2 knee clean outs and a shoulder. So
in one go.
In one go.
Damn.
I just want to try to knock it over in one
Just
go.
fucking get
Just
it
one less
sorted.
anesthetic. Just be like laying there like. I think those three subject matters are really awesome, you know, and like they're very old and it just rings true. You're like, oh, I do that. I shouldn't do that. You know, like one of the big ones of Stoic philosophy is, you know, work out in your life what you can control and what you can't control, and learn to know the difference between the two. Because at the end of the day, you cannot stop bad shit from happening. Okay, but you can control how you perceive it and how you respond to it. You know, like, you know, God forbid you get with a girl and you're like, oh, I'd really like her to be like this, and we'll try and change her, and she doesn't change, and then the relationship breaks up, and then you're sad, she's sad. It's like no,
it's not how it operates.
That's not how it works. Yeah, you try to change something you can't change. You'll just break yourself against that. Like, you just read that over and over again, and you're like, yeah, cool, kind of like reset me again, like bring me back. You know, they talk about the obstacle is the way, which is like, don't take the easy road, you pussy. Okay, you're not going to learn anything there. Take the hard road, because the gift is going to be on the other side of that, the learning. You know, fail forward. You know, like those.
It's funny, like there are all these universal truths that have been around for so long, yet we try to deny them or label them something different. It's like, just go back to the most basics of things, and it's always been there. It's like when people,
the truth is always in front of your face.
Yeah,
like it's always there. It's in the mirror.
Yeah, fucking that's
the best mirror, like the best.
That's the deepest quote on this podcast so far. That's fucking amazing.
Absolutely.
I think we've got a few snippets of greatness in the.
Yeah,
I think we went pieces there. I mean, we started with rugby, went down to fucking universal truths, and I'm quite aroused.
Yeah, looking at that boy, you know, he's talking about swimming through the ocean. Looking at that boy to correct yourself. Was that part of your decision to jump into your own practice and move away from footy teams?
Mainly, like, we started having a family, and that life of working 7 days a week for 6 months of the year for over a decade is not very conducive to a happy family life. So I would be divorced. I wouldn't have a family now if I'd kept doing that job. And I've known other physios who've maybe stuck at it a bit longer, and their families have broken up. Oof. And I just think that that's one of the greatest travesties. Like, you know, it's good pay packet.
Yep.
Won't lie. But you do give up a lot to get it. But then as you kind of mature and you start thinking a bit more about things, you go, I actually don't want that big pay packet, because I see the hidden costs in that now, and I'm not willing to make that trade.
Yeah.
Like, if someone said, Jackal, we really want you to come to our team, like, I put a number on the table that they wouldn't be happy with. And I'd be really happy to walk away from, you know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Yep. Yeah.
It took a while to get there. I'm a slower learner as anyone. Don't get me wrong, but but it's pretty fun. Like, as a young man, that job was really good, stressful, and like, I tend to be a bit of a thinker, so I'll be like, oh man, I'm going to sort out hamstrings. Go read heaps of articles, and I'm like, because we're a bit like, oh, let's not run them at training too fast. You know, let's keep the juice in the tank for the weekend. Was kind of the first approach. A little bit the cotton wool, don't break them. And then they'd run on the weekend, and then someone kick the ball over their head. They just turn around, sprint after it, and they tear the hammy. And we kind of thought, well, you know what? Maybe we're not exposing them to sprinting enough, so that when they do it, it's a high velocity for them, and they hurt themselves.
Yep.
So we had one guy once. He had 7 hamstring strains. He was a problem child when I came to the Reds, and they go, I had 2 problem children, like chronically injured, couldn't get going. One young kid, like super fast, could run over 10 meters a second. He was quick. He kept tearing his hammy. And, you know, I came up with a plan, put it together, and I had to kind of justify it to the coach. I said, mate, you got to give me this guy for 6 weeks away from training. I don't want him doing that. So I did that, got some work into him, got some low, got some high speed into him, and then we put him into training, and we just put the GPS on him, and we just tracked him for 10 days. So this guy could run at 10 meters a second. He trained normally with the team for 10 days. What do you think was the highest speed he ran in training? Full training, like game sim, everything.
15 meters a second.
Well, you can't run faster than 10 meters a second. Do you know how fast 15 meters a second is?
That'd be pretty
quick. You got to get in your car.
I wouldn't have a clue. Like top speed?
So his top speed was about 10 point something.
Jesus, that's quick.
Like, that's very quick. So... you guys aren't coming up with much over there. So
6.
So he was essentially running around in full training at 60% capacity. So essentially he was full training, but he was down regulating his capacity all the time. So we like, shit. So we had to, at the end of training, let's go. And we'd have to physically get him to sprint, do flying 40s to get the exposure into him. We did that for like a month or so afterwards. And then for the rest of my stint, he never had a hamstring problem. But unless you kind of looked at that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because you've got all the GPS data, all the players, unless you're like, it's a full-time job just to even look at one player, let alone 40. So we only found that because we looked at it, and then we just like started tracking those high-risk guys much more closely. And if they didn't get to where they had to get to, run, baby, run, Forrest.
No.
So that's just that's fun to work that out.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of egg on the face before then when I didn't work it out. You know what I mean? To kind of get to that point.
A puzzle piece, literally just trying to.
We had this one other guy too, chronic, like 2 ACLs, 2 syndesmosis, 7 hamstrings or something. Similar thing. I just said, coach, just give him to me for a while, and we built him up, and he got back to playing. And then he comes in halfway through the season. He goes, "Yeah, so I'm leaving. I'm going to France." And I'm like, "Mate, I've just worked overtime on you. I've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into you, and he's gone and signed in France." I'm like, "You owe me." But I'm like, he obviously got paid better money over there. I'm like, yeah, good on you. And he was very appreciative of the extra effort.
Yep. That you put in so he could have that opportunity.
Well, just like if you kept doing the same thing and kept getting the same result, you would be sacked. And like he's like, this is what I think about it. His family potentially loses out on hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in income because I didn't do my job good enough.
Yep. Fuck, no pressure.
You know, it's like, but like, so you put the pressure on yourself, which makes you think about it and go down rabbit holes, and then try to work out. And you do the same now. It's just you're doing it with different type of athletes. Like you get some powerlifting guys in, and whatever. I get a little old lady in. Obviously, you just tone it down for the little old lady. It's the same principles.
Get her in a squat suit and fucking get under a bar.
Yeah, see, now that you've got your own space, you'd have exposure to all sorts of different disciplines coming through the doors. It was still footy guys.
I'm really impressed by the professionalism shown by amateur athletes out there. Because they put some professionals to shame with their application, their professionalism to every aspect of their training. Like they, you know, a fault of the professional system is that everything is done for them, everything is given to them, and they just expect it. And they don't see the value in it until they're injured. And then they go, well, where's my this? I want to go and get injected by Wolfgang Wolfhard in Germany because one guy in the AFL did that 2 years ago and then his hamstring was fixed. I want to go. Pay for me to go, though. And you're like, hang on. You know what I mean? Like, so you kind of had to deal with that kind of, I don't know if it's entitled or whatever, but then you'd have some guys who were just like, I spent 1 hour a day. Actually, Jonathan Brown I was pretty much an hour a day with him for years.
Really?
But he was extremely appreciative. And it was kind of funny. Like we did that for a while, and he has a lot of injuries because he smashed himself hard. And then he kind of said, look, you know what? I'm going to try and do no physio this year. And then I virtually didn't see him for a year. He just said, no, I'll get myself right. You know what I mean? And he did that off his own bat. You know? And one guy, James Hall, Big Kev, love Big Kev. I would have spent an hour a day with him for 3 years because he had some really complex problems, and he bought me a coffee every day. So for him, it was $5, and he got an hour of me once to even more, sometimes multiple times a day for like 3 years. And I was happy to do it for him because he was very appreciative. I was very appreciative of the coffee.
Nice coffee.
And he was very thankful. And I'm like, yeah, man, I will do that for you. You know, whereas some guys were a bit like the other way, and it was a bit hard to justify going overs for them when they would just F around and not do their bit of it. I'd kind of like just gently push them away a little bit, to be honest. But that's the small bit of power I have in my life.
A little bit.
So,
Unreal. And now you've also got that recovery science we keep talking about.
recovery science is good.
Yeah, which you
COVID wasn't good for it, but
yeah.
we kind of just, myself and Tom, thought that it'd be a good thing to do is to give the opportunities that professional athletes are offered every day to community people.
Yep.
You know, like, so it shouldn't just be for them.
Yep.
And if you want to go hard and recover and look after your machine, your vehicle, then you should. And that's a worthwhile investment. And some people do that really well and nicely, and some people don't until they get injured and they come and cry to me.
Yeah.
And then I kind of go, well, look at your history. Do you want to change that, or you want to keep doing the same thing? And then most people realize that they've been cheating the system a bit, and they kind of, they won't tell you, but you just see the way they behave, and you're like, okay, we're through. We're both now in a better spot to go forward from. All right, another example kind of on that, like you've always kind of negotiating that with people, right? So I had one guy once. So after every game, you do a medical after a game, medical on Sunday, a little bit of a pre-training check, you know what I mean, before they train, right? This guy came in on Monday and he goes, mate, my calf's tight. And I'd come in and I just looked his calf, felt, I said, mate, you've torn it. This is torn. And then he went off to do his thing in the routine. I'm like, I'm going to have to go tell the coach this. But someone else had told the coach. The coach comes down to my room and he's like, just torn me a new one. What the hell? Why this guy's calf's torn? You know what I mean? Like, what the hell are you doing? Do you know what goes on in this department? And then I went like, hang on. So I went and got the medical report for after the game. And I said, here you go. He hasn't reported calf tightness here. Got my medical report for the Sunday. He hasn't reported calf soreness here. I said, I just found out about it today. And then, so he's gone, He's gone back, talk to the player. I'm still in my room treating or whatever. The player comes down, sits there like a little bit coy. And I'm like, and he's like, and then walked off. And I'm like, you couldn't even apologize. So he tore his calf out on the piss, you know what I mean? And tried to throw me under the bus to make it look like I wasn't doing my job, you know what I mean? And he came down and we just like looked at each other and he never tried that again, you know, because he got found out big time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how you have to run your game when you're, that's sports physio in a nutshell right there.
Fucking hell. That's insane. Yeah.
So that's what I mean, it's a bit different now because you're not dealing with that kind of high pressure environment, but I still apply the same rules to everyone.
Yep.
I think it's good as a physio to have a set principles, set rules that you can kind of run off.
Oh yeah. It's the basic principles that when you boil it down, there's truth here. I try to get there and then I go, let's come up from here. Everyone else go, whatever. No. Get down here. We're here. Good. Now we can go from that point.
Unreal.
Doesn't matter.
Bro, here comes the 10 questions.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire. First thing that comes in your head, they're going to be quick.
I will do my best.
We're going to throw you off. We're going everywhere with these two, so we're going to try and catch you out. Are you ready?
You will.
What word comes next? Apple, banana, house, ape.
Gorilla.
What motivates you to work hard?
Family.
Who is your hero?
I'll say dad.
Now, karaoke nights is coming up. What song or songs are you planning to sing?
My Way by Frank Sinatra.
Fucking mint.
Yes.
Oh.
Nickname as a kid?
Kid. I like a lot. Monte Carlo.
Yeah.
Oh, hey man, lost car. Roberto Carlos. Yeah, they were the big ones around Carlos. Yeah.
How many pillows do you sleep with at night?
I have one thin pillow because I sleep on my back and a big thick pillow that when I lay on my stomach, I hug.
Give it a hug. Yeah, nice. I like that. Now, how long does it take you to get ready in the morning?
6.
6 minutes? Yeah, nice.
It's going to be like
6
seconds.
Who was your first crush?
Christy Morris.
Ooh.
Morris.
Oh, yeah. beautiful raven-haired beauty.
Yeah.
She came to my grade 6 birthday party. She was chewing a minty on the trampoline,
Oh.
which was high risk in case it went down the back of her throat.
Yep.
I think I did get a peck at some point.
Oh,
Yes.
look at the
Christy
style.
Morris.
Oh, shout out.
Who knows you the best?
Yeah, mum.
Nice. And the genie grants you 3 wishes. What will your 3 wishes be?
Oh, bro. Healthy kids. Healthy kids. 3 wishes for me.
Absolutely.
I'm jet ski shopping at the moment, so maybe the best jet ski that's out there.
Yes.
Because I want to be a cool dad.
Yes.
Actually, cool dad. Maybe someday for cool dad
Yeah.
status. Mate, to be honest, like the Stoic tradition, actually, more time to read.
Nice.
Because if like you go down the Stoic road, you try to simplify and dematerialize yourself a lot. You don't want to materialize yourself too much because it's just crap.
Do you listen to books as well, or just
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got through the 4 Agreements.
Haven't read that.
Yeah, Don Miguel.
Oh.
One of my friends who very successful businessman and very good friend. I'm like, hey man, what's a good reading list? Give me your best. And he just went bang, 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 bang. So I'm going through his list.
Yeah, right.
I believe the Green Light Matthew McConaughey books are a ripper. I've heard that.
Fucking read it and I listened to it. It is one of my favorite.
Actually,
books.
okay, this is a read for you. Homework.
Yes.
I think it's The Boy, the Mole, the Horse, and the Fox. You'll read it in 5 minutes.
Actually,
one of my patients gave it to me. I read it. I bought 10 copies.
The Boy.
Have it around your gym.
Yeah, right. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the order of all the people in that.
Right.
Damn.
I'm gonna go buy it today.
I should have brought you a copy. What an
It's on the
idiot.
list.
Oh, that's all right.
Done.
Have you read
No.
Green Lights?
Next time you're in, you come in. I will give you a copy. I'm giving it to people that I think will appreciate it and like it.
Fine.
Shout out Ryan & Co. Haircut. Very good. I now blow dry at 44. Blow drying. Boom.
I know he made me do that.
I've never done it before. Thank you, Ryan.
I know. He got me onto him. It's a funny story about Ryan. I'd booked in with my normal barber and then was like, Johnny keeps raving about this Ryan guy. I was like,
Once you've had Ryan.
Literally just checked and then
can't.
fucking he had one availability. I was like, done. Booked in. Now I've never gone back. Never gone elsewhere.
Best in the game.
Yeah, so I was talking to him about this is not a good time to bring this up because I shortly do unfortunately need to go to my income producing job. Yeah, it's just me and him start talking. I was like talking about Bitcoin, just going hard, like cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, man. So what do you reckon? I'm like, yeah, just get this.
I love as a barber, they must have to have like they just can talk about anything.
That's like a physio thing.
Yeah.
That's why I reckon I'm like much more of a jack of all trades, master of none type. You have to talk to every walk of life person, and hairdressers will be exactly the same.
Oh,
So don't be a wet fish when you're at the barber shop, right? Give a bit to your barber because he's gonna take it and give you a bit back.
Give that boy some content.
Give him some content.
That's a good one, actually.
That's what me and Ryan Co always talk about. We just need good content for the week.
Yeah.
Where can people find you if they want to reach out?
I suppose Integrated Physio Centre is obviously my main business. And then I'm working on doing more in the social media space, but through Integrated Physio Centre essentially is probably.
Sick.
Absolutely. We'll chuck it up in the show notes,
Yep.
mate. We
Links and
cannot
things.
thank you enough for your time this morning.
Yes.
Fucking definitely one of my favorite chats on the show.
Very good.
It was fucking just the levels we went to.
Yeah.
There's just a-
Get this kid on with Pegler one day.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. We'll just sit back and let it happen.
Oh,
maybe a few vinos because I'm actually doing 6 months of no drinking. So when I brag that,
Jesus
I'll-
Christ, you
I'll
and
be-
Pegler will get on.
He likes his wine too.
He
Yeah.
literally had wine on the last one.
We'll bring wine. Done.
Yeah,
Fuck, we'll be here for hours.
yeah.
It'll be
I'll
good.
do it. We'll do a nighttime one.
Yes. Then we can
Um,
shoot some pool as well.
That's what we need to do, eh?
Active.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did the axe throwing for Christmas party last year.
It's fun, eh?
Yeah, it's good.
Fuck. Anyways, we'll wrap it up there, mate. Thank you so much. You'll be on again for sure.
Yeah,
Or we
clap.
just clap. Yeah.
Sometimes we clap. No clapping. No.
Sometimes we forget. That was sick, bro.